Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I wanted to tell you one thing, and that is that whenever we are attempting to answer questions like this, where did the universe come from? The only reference that we have is science, right? And what happens is that your mind keeps going back to what you know or what science has told you up to now. And what, in fact, it's good to have scientists in the class because they know very well how much they don't know. When they themselves know very clearly how much they don't know, the attitude with which they listen to you is totally different. They don't try to reconcile everything with science because they understand very well so many things are unknown. They can't answer questions like, how did this Big Bang happen? What was there before that? And if you, one thing is you don't know before that, that's fine. But you can't claim that everything came from nothing. That becomes illogical. Please understand that. You can't have a pot coming from nothing. You can't have a human body coming from nothing. There has to be something from which everything comes. And what that thing is, science is not able to answer because, as I told you, the data which comes is only through the senses. And senses, by their inherent nature, are limited in what they can capture. So therefore, there is a completely alternative view of looking at what the world. And there is this amazing body of knowledge which answers some of the questions that we cannot. See, if science can answer all the questions, you won't come here today want to learn Vedanta. Why should you? We are attempting to answer something which is otherwise unanswerable with our five senses, a normal means of knowledge. And this is why you and what it says, if it is right, then what is the second condition? That it cannot be contradicted by logic. So for now, don't try to correlate everything to science. Put your science aside. Listen to what Vedas have to say and see if you can find the logic to contradict what it says. And you will find none. And at the end of the 5 days, what we will do is we'll try to reconcile how this scientific vision of the world, how, some gaps that it has, how the knowledge of Vedanta fills in those gaps. We will do that at the end. But there is something right now, there are 2 conditions. With the open-mindedness is, there is one thing you need to keep in mind. What Vedas are talking about is Anadigatam. Anadigatam is what? Something which cannot be arrived at by your normal processes of knowing. But then how do you know whether it is right or wrong? There is a second condition, it says Abadit. So that means there is no logic which can contradict what Veda says. That's what gives strength to what Vedanta is saying. So try to see within this, I have been developing this whole logical way of looking at the world and seeing if you can find any fault in that logic. How did it start? Now you do it. I'm not going to repeat again. How did we start? How did we even start to attempt to answer the question, where did the universe come from? How did we start? Tell me.
Comparison of the pottery. First started off with the pot maker.
Excellent. We started by saying anything which is intelligently put together has to have what? Exactly. Anything which is intelligently put together, you cannot say first, you can't say it comes from nothing. It needs a creator. And what kind of creator it needs? If you have ghatasya karta ghatagya. If you want to make a pot, you need what? A pot maker who has knowledge of the pot. But not only you need the knowledge, you also need what? The power. So now, sarvasya karta is what? Sarvajna. If there is a creator of the whole universe, it must have what? All knowledge. And it must then also have what? All power. Sarvajnaha sarvashaktiman Ishvara. Definition of Ishvara. Vedic vision of the cause of the universe. Logically, logic, we use logic. Now, the next question was, what is the material that this all knowledge and all power used in order to create the universe? The same, because if there was already some material, then there is, or you have to ask, if there is a material, then there is already what? Time, space and object. Then you have to ask who created that. So in the case of the whole creation, the maker and the material are what? One. Unlike in the case of pot, there can be two different causes. The pot maker is one cause and the clay is other cause. But this possibility doesn't exist in the case of the whole creation. Because before the creation has come about, you can't have a material existing. You understand that? So therefore, the maker and the material of the universe are the same. So now, if Ishvara, the Vedic vision of the cause of the universe is the maker and the material are one, then it answers which question? The question of location. Most of the people think there is some Ishvara out there who created this universe. And Ishvara, the entity, is what? Away from us. Sitting, we allocate a place. What is a place that we allocate? Heaven or whatever, right? So that means it becomes a remote entity and it becomes what? One of the entities in the creation, located in one place called heaven.
I have a question. So does this mean that for mankind to understand this concept, what gave birth to the concept of God?
Sorry?
Is this what allowed man to come up with the concept of God, to be able to understand the logic?
Yeah. See, that's true. That whenever you see something which is intelligently put together, it presupposes some kind of an intelligence. The only problem is, if you stop your inquiry there, then what happens is, where do you find that intelligence? Then you don't find locally anything called all intelligence, right? You only see stones and you see mountains and you see rivers. Then you think that, oh, it's not here, it's what? Somewhere else. So that is what we call incomplete knowledge. So what Vedas do is, it removes these kind of incompleteness in the knowledge through inquiry. So that means your knowledge of the nature of that intelligence, Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman Ishvara, becomes complete. And when it becomes complete, your life becomes aligned to it. Otherwise, we live with fragmented vision of the world. And as we live with the fragmented vision of the world, our thinking goes skewed. It's all skewed. And when it is skewed, there are going to be distortions. And as there are distortions, the distortions, manifest themselves in terms of what? Inappropriate actions, and then what? Inappropriate results, suffering. So that means there are chain of consequences. Not understanding, not getting the understanding of the world right has costs to you. It's not just some kind of a intellectual inquiry into the reality. It has direct implication of on how you live your life, the decisions that you make, the kind of emotional life that you have. So that means it is not just an abstract inquiry. Ask his astrologer, when he sees your chart, everything he'll tell you. What pariharas and what papa you've done. I mean, all kinds of things he'll tell you. Your life journey. Because when you have lived with a fragmented vision of things, knowingly or unknowingly, you do things which are inappropriate. And as you begin to do things which are inappropriate, it keeps giving you inappropriate results. And you need to fix it. And fixing, you can do small fixes, or you can do one-time big fix, really understanding the whole world differently. This is what the job of Vedanta is. And realigning to the whole universe with a totally different vision of things. So therefore, now, all that is here is, now, the implication of this all knowledge and all power is both material and the maker of the universe. What it then means is that it is everywhere. Now, if it is everywhere, you can ask me, hey, if it is everywhere, I should be able to see it. I only see Hanish, and I see Mukesh Bhai, and I see Binu, and I see Faye. I don't see all intelligence. If it is everywhere, what? It has to be? I should be able to, it should be visible. So this is where Vedas say that, hey, I can show you now how this intelligence is present everywhere. Now. How? So, in this Prashnopanishad, he has a certain method of showing the presence of intelligence everywhere. So that it's no longer a faith, it's no longer a belief. The presence of Ishvara becomes your understanding, it becomes your vision. So, it has a given way of showing, and it says, you think, you look up in the sky, and you look at what? The sun, the moon, the planets, the galaxies. Now, there, the Upanishads show you the presence of intelligence. How? There is this whole, it takes the movement of the sun and the moon, and that movement of sun and moon, what all it does on this earth. The distance of earth to the sun is what? Exact. If the sun was a little closer, what would happen? We will be all burned. And if the sun was little farther away, then what? We will all freeze to death. So that means the placement of the sun vis-a-vis earth and the moon is in its exact position. Did you put it together? Did I put it together? You have come in this universe where it is put together. Now, what it says is, as the sun and the moon and the earth, as the whole universe is on a constant flux, but as they are moving, the relative distance between the two remains what? Exactly the same. It can't go off by inches also. Now imagine you put two things in motion and you have to keep the distance exact. Try to do it. So therefore, now here it says the movement of the sun and moon right now, right, is creating what he says, what the earth, with reference to earth, there is a southern hemisphere and a northern hemisphere. And this is where somebody I met in this Ayurveda place that I had gone to, and he was interested in Vastu Shastra. And he says, but this Vastu Shastra that you are doing is for northern hemisphere, but Brazil is in southern hemisphere. So he wanted to know how to translate it into that place. So therefore, that means there is so much knowledge which is required to even translate that whole Vastu into that other place in the universe. So the southern hemisphere and northern hemisphere has different characteristics. Then what happens is within that a year is created. How is 1 year? What is 1 year? Tell me. The time it takes for the earth to what? To complete its rotation around the sun. 1 year. How old is the universe? Billions of years of universe, and this rotation happens what? Every year. Without any what? No breaks in between.
In fact, a little bit less, because the sun is 9 billion years, and the earth is 4.5 billion years old.
Yeah.
So a little bit younger than the moon.
Yes. Now, and the thing is, while it is going around, then which gives rise to different seasons on this earth. So,
rotation on its own axis.
That is, yeah, exactly. So what happens is, so 365 days, but 365 days are what? Not all the same. You have different seasons. Then what happens is, this earth, not only while the earth is rotating around the sun, the moon is what? Rotating around the earth. And the moon rotating around the earth, it takes about what? It creates what? Month. 28 days approximately for the moon to finish its rotation around the earth. Now, in those 28 days, what happens is, depending upon every day, depending upon the position of the moon, with reference to earth, it creates what? High tide and low tide. It's not just mindlessly rotating. Please understand. So that means that this high tide and low tide also then has effect on what?
On the weather.
Huh? Yeah, on the, you had this, when there was a big rain in Bombay recently, they knew that the high tide is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. they closed all the roads. They asked people to reach their destination wherever they have to go before that, because then there will be increased rain and increased floods. So that means there is an intelligence in the universe. It behaves in a certain way. This is a demonstration of the presence of intelligence here and now. It's not a belief. So therefore, and not only, and the moon revolves around the earth itself rotates on its own axis, and that creates what? Day and night. This is what is the distance between earth and the moon and the sun? And they are all rotating. There is a dance in the universe. There is a representation. We have a representation of this whole thing of the universe in flux, but at a very intelligent manner. And that is, have you seen Nataraja? Yes. That's a visual representation. Everything is in a constant flux, but everything is what? In its right place. Not only in its right place, doing the right function, just as it is needed. So that means that if you begin to look at the universe, it's just the sun, moon, and its movements with reference to the earth. And if you try to do the calculations, if any mind has to think about the calculations that it requires for all this system to be in place for billions of years, that knowledge is inconceivable.
Can I say something? Just very briefly. What is the amount of precision? What is the amount of precision which is required to do this dance of all these planets and galaxies and the whole universe? What is the precision? How would you put something concrete on this precision level? So it means, in physics you have some numbers which are constants. And some of these constants, like gravitational constants, the mass of an electron, right? This kind of, you have heard, I'm sure. Long time ago, but you have heard. So these numbers have some digits, right? And if it's 1 point and then there are 16 or 20 digits, you have an idea of the precision that is there. Now another way to look at it, but more like visually, so there are some physicists who do some toy universes. So they do some models of universe from their computers. And then say, okay, let's plug in some of these constants, these physical constants that physics and mathematics have found. But let's tweak them a little bit, and let's see to what kind of sensibility, if we tweak them, for example, at this 10 decimal, what will happen? Will the universe be able to be, if we tweak some of these numbers at the 10th decimal, will it be the same universe or not? So they have this calculation power. Imagine the computer, let's say that they have to do that. So then they did on this toy universe. So some of these universes were they tweaked. There was no universe possible. In some, the universe was a dwarf universe, which began very quickly and then froze. In some, it was not even able to start. So one physicist who is an astrophysicist, he said the precision is equivalent to, imagine you are an archer, okay? You want to throw an arrow from here to a distance of 1 million light years. So during 1 million years, the light traveling at a speed of how much? 300,000 kilometers per second. So during 1 million years. So this is the distance you want to reach with your arrow. Okay? So you can imagine the distance, and you want to reach and put your arrow in a target of 1 square centimeter. So 1 square centimeter target, which is situated 1 million light years above. So that is more or less to give you a sense of the amount of the precision and the mind-boggling, let's say, knowledge that is there in the universe to be what it is.
So that means, if I ask you, where is this intelligence? Is it somewhere else?
No.
Where is that intelligence? We, unfortunately, the science makes us think about the sun as just what? Hydrogen atoms. What we miss is what? They are not just hydrogen atoms, there is a presence of intelligence which makes those hydrogen atoms and behave, that makes the sun do its job so precisely for so long. And that is what is there. It's not somewhere else. Please don't look for intelligence somewhere away from things. That is what you really need to understand clearly, the presence of that intelligence everywhere. Ishvara, the Vedic vision of Ishvara is the intelligence is everywhere. And when you begin to live with that vision, your life can never be the same. So therefore, here, then it says, it goes on to show that not only, so okay, now all these earth is moving and the sun is moving and the moon is moving and seasons are happening and the day and night is happening and different seasons are happening and all this, high tide, low tide. But then for what? So this is where it shows that now within this intelligent design, those seasons and all, there are creatures which are created. Who created those creatures? The same intelligence which created what? The sun, moon, and everything else. The human being, if you look at, ask any medical doctor, they say human body is a miracle. It is how many billions of cells come together in order to make this little you. And did you put any of these cells together? No. And the thing is, the cells that you are born with, it's not that they stay with you for the rest of your life. Every 12 years, your body has what? Has changed every existing cell. After 12 years, they don't exist. They are new cells, a constant generation of cells. So that means you as an entity, that is also the work of the same intelligence. And not only you as a human being exist, on this earth, there are how many species on this earth? How many species? Even within aquatic creatures, how many different species? Even within one jati of fish, how many different varieties? Even within one variety, how many different colors and sizes? So that means you can't, you have to begin to re-look at the universe. When you begin to re-look at the universe, you can't miss the presence of the intelligence, the all-pervading presence of this intelligence. If I just told you that there was this intelligence which created the universe and somehow it is somewhere else, it is a belief. But if I show you here and now, that everything comes from this one thing and everything is pervaded by that one thing. And that thing is right now at work. What logic in the world you have to refute what I'm saying? Not I'm saying, what Vedas are saying. So that means that now all these different bodies and different species are born, but they are designed in a way that they can't survive without what? Food and water. Where did the food and water, where do they come from? Where do they come? Every day, every meal, you are constantly, nobody can stay for 10 minutes without any drinks. Everybody is constantly in need for something or the other. Where is all this coming from? Nobody said it. The rivers, the mountains, the vegetations. You think that these trees are just standing here? They are standing here and they are doing this job of what? Drawing the energy from the sun to prepare food for you. Part of the intelligent what? So that means that it is at work right now everywhere. And in order for the food to get prepared, the sun participates, the moon participates, the seasons and the rotation which leads to seasons, that participates. Everything that is happening participates in this whole process. So therefore, the food of each species is slightly different, and each one gets one's food, and everybody has some source of what? Getting water. And this is how the whole thing is coordinated. Now, the species are born, and the forces work together to provide all the needs that we have in order to keep our life going. And then what? What does that facilitate? It facilitates in a way that you are not only given the body, you are given what? Coming back to what? The senses, which are able to look at the universe and then what? Interact with this universe. That is also a part of this intelligent design. The eyes, the ears, the nose. So that means that when you ask any ophthalmologist, the human eye is so complex. A very complex, one organ is so complex. Then it is connected to the brain and the signals that it gives in the brain. And the brain produces the images of what the data that eye captures. Knowledge within knowledge within knowledge. You see nothing but knowledge at work. So now, then, okay, you're given the senses, you're given the body, you're given the different ways, to procure your food and water. Then what are you supposed to do here? So the way the world is designed is, you come with a certain what? Mindset. And you come, every human being comes with what? Certain frame of mind and certain desires. And for whichever desire that you have, there is what? That there is a platform that is given to you to fulfill your desire. You want to be rich? Oh, great. You can go ahead. then Ishvara has no problem with that. It gives you multiple means of being rich. You can be a businessman, you can be a doctor, you can be an engineer, you can be a very famous artist. Multiple ways to achieve what? Same end. Within this whole intelligence, all the possibilities are given. And as you collapse those possibilities, then what? The outcomes are given. So that means this intelligence provides a platform for you to engage in the world, and the engagement in the world is based on what your preference is and what you're given the decision making capacity. And depending upon the decisions that you make, there is a reward system, which is what we call what? So that means this is the part of this intelligent design is at work constantly. Karma and karma phala. Now, as you live your life, the karma phala itself is of two types. One is what we call drishta. Every time a situation presents in front of you, and you have to respond to that situation, and you have to make the decision. And for decision, you have multiple possibilities. Now, suppose you collapse one possibility, then what happens? There is an outcome which comes, which is what in keeping with this possibility that you have collapsed. Now, this result is twofold, drishta phalam and adrishta phalam. Drishta phalam is what? If you have done something which is somehow respecting the way, the ways of intelligent design, then you are what we call, you are given immediate feedback in terms of satisfaction. Suppose I help you. Simple thing, you are looking for something, and I go a little bit out of my way to help you to get it. Whether you say thank you to me or not, whether others notice it or not, no matter what, I will feel what? Good. I feel good. Okay, good. I did a little bit something to somebody. That is what we call drishta phalam. Then there is something else which also comes, and this is what we call adrishta phalam. What is adrishta phalam? Adrishta phalam is for that extension that I did on my part, in addition to feeling good for the little time, there is a mechanism within the universe to reward me for that little extension which I did. That means the results are carried forward. So that means at some other time, at some other place, it may not even be you, it may be somebody totally different. Somehow I will receive some kindness from somebody else. That is a compensation mechanism. What unfortunately happens is, when we don't see that compensation mechanism, suppose I do something to you today and you don't acknowledge, then what? I did so much for you and you're not taking it. So you get into this whole thing about what? This is what we call victim psychology. So many people have this feeling, which is what? I'm so good to others, but others are not being so kind to me. This comes from non-understanding of this compensation mechanism in this universe. So that means the minute you begin to see, this is why I'm saying this knowledge is not some theoretical knowledge. It totally percolates the way you live your life. Instead of seeing a random, meaningless universe where you have to somehow grab things, you see an amazingly intelligent design which is at work every second of your life. So that means the more and more you understand that compensation mechanism, then more and more what? It's not to please anybody else. It is just for yourself that you align to the laws. It is like aligning to as simple as laws of gravity. Can you say, I don't care whether there is law of gravity or not? Hey, there are laws in place. If you can choose to ignore the laws of gravity, but you will soon fall if you choose to ignore law of gravity. But if you begin to work with the laws of gravity, how far can you go? Tell me, how far can you go? The first thing you will avoid is what? Falling. If you are aware of laws of gravity in your life. The second thing is you can use the law of gravity. What if I want to give something to Nandini from here? Then what? I'll use the law of gravity. I know it'll fall, but I'll use the force according to what? The distance. I'm using the laws of gravity in my decision making. Please understand that. And if I'm really smart, I can use the laws of gravity to send a rocket out in the atmosphere. You have to learn to live with the laws of the universe. Can't ignore it, because they are all there. It's not up to you. You can say, I don't care, but actually you're constantly being affected by it. So therefore, this is this presence of intelligence that Vedanta is talking about. It's everywhere and it is at work. It is not located at any given place. It is in and through the universe, and it's constantly rearranging the universe. Constantly. Depending upon the choices we make, it constantly is changing in a flux. It's at work here and now. So this is why the Vedic vision of Ishvara is not a matter of belief, it is a matter of understanding. It's just removing your ignorance and seeing what is. Looking at the world differently. Suppose there is an all-pervading intelligence and you have no cognizance of that intelligence. Are you living a life which is in keeping with some realities? Are you? No. So that means there is something which is at work. Then further, how is this intelligence organized and how it arranges the universe is further explained, and we will see it in the next class. And now I will just stop with a prayer and then I will give the floor to Krishna. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.